Eric sets the box down, stretching his back. The apartment is small but modern. The walls are bare, the air slightly musty. Eric, finally, new start. He notices a single framed photo on the wall, left by the previous tenant. It shows a blurry woman standing by the apartment window, staring out. Eric, weird, they left this behind? He shrugs, setting the picture down, then begins unpacking. As he unboxes, the lights flicker briefly. A faint creaking sound comes from the ceiling. Eric lies in bed, scrolling through his phone. The apartment is silent, except for the occasional sound of footsteps from the unit above. Tap, tap, tap. He frowns, looking at the ceiling. Eric, muttering, "Guess I have a night owl neighbor." He turns off the light, closing his eyes. Silence. Then, a soft whisper. Whisper, "Eric." His eyes snap open. He sits up, heart pounding. Eric, nervously, "Hello?" Nothing, just the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. He shakes his head and lies back down. The next morning, Eric stands in the hallway, knocking on the door of the apartment above his. The door creaks open slightly. A frail, elderly woman, Mrs. Winters, peers out. Mrs. Winters, "Oh, you're the new tenant." Eric, "Hey, sorry to bother you. I heard footsteps last night. Just wanted to check if everything's okay." Mrs. Winters stares at him for an uncomfortably long time, then shakes her head. Mrs. Winters, "That wasn't me." Eric frowns. A cold breeze seems to pass between them. Mrs. Winters, whispering, "Did you hear the whisper?" Silence. Eric, forcing a chuckle, "What? No. Mrs. Winters, urgent, "If you hear it again, don't answer." She slowly closes the door. Eric stands there, unsettled. That night, Eric sits on the couch, watching TV. The screen flickers, static for a moment. Then an image appears. A woman, standing in his bedroom, her face turned away. Eric's breath catches. He whips around, his bedroom is empty. He slowly turns back to the TV. The woman is closer now. The screen flickers again, back to normal programming. Eric exhales sharply, running a hand over his face. Eric, muttering, "Lack of sleep is messing with me." Then, tap, tap, tap. The sound of bare feet on the floor. Inside his apartment. He slowly turns his head toward the hallway, and sees a figure standing just beyond the doorway. A woman, long black hair, pale skin, her face obscured by shadows. Silence stretches. Then, she moves. Not walking, gliding, straight toward him. Eric scrambles backward, knocking over a lamp. The room plunges into darkness. Heavy breathing fills the space. Then, nothing. He fumbles for his phone, turning on the flashlight. The room is empty. The only thing left is a single, wet footprint on the wooden floor. The next day, Eric hammers on Mrs. Winters' door. She opens it, looking exhausted. Eric, panicked, "Who lived in my apartment before me?" Mrs. Winters sighs, looking over her shoulder as if afraid someone might hear. Mrs. Winters, her name was Claire. She lived alone until she didn't. Eric swallows hard. Eric, what do you mean? Mrs. Winters steps closer, lowering her voice. Mrs. Winters, she kept hearing someone whisper her name. She thought she was imagining it, until one night, she answered. Silence. Eric, and? Mrs. Winters stares at him with sunken eyes. Mrs. Winters, she let it in. A shiver runs down Eric's spine. Eric sits in his apartment, lights on, gripping his phone. Every nerve in his body is on edge. The room is silent. Then, the whisper returns. Whisper, Eric. His hands tighten into fists. He squeezes his eyes shut, remembering Mrs. Winters' warning. Silence. Then, a knock at the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Eric stares, his breath shudders. Knock, knock, knock. He grips the doorknob, debating. His heart pounds. The air grows colder. Knock, knock, knock. And then, a voice. Soft, familiar. Claire, whispering, pleading, please, let me in. Eric's fingers tremble on the doorknob. He knows the story, knows what happens if he answers. But the voice sounds so human, so desperate. Silence stretches. The air thickens with something unseen, and then the whisper changes. Whisper, distorted, inhuman. Let me in. The lights flicker violently. The door rattles. The room fills with an overwhelming pressure. Eric stumbles backward, covering his ears. And then everything stops. Silence. The air returns to normal. Eric opens his eyes. The door is slightly ajar. A single handprint lingers on the wood. And beyond it, the hallway is empty. For now. The next morning, Eric, suitcase in hand, steps out of the apartment. He locks the door behind him and exhales heavily. He turns to leave when he sees something in the hallway mirror. His reflection, but behind it, a woman, smiling. Static noise fills the air. The screen cuts to black.